and welcome to another Scottish mountain walking guide. In today's video I'm going to ascend Moruisg and Sgùrr. Moruisg is a Munro and higher than 3,000 feet, while Sgùrr is a Corbett, and a Corbett is a mountain between 2,500 and 3,000 feet, so just slightly shorter than a Munro. The starting point is 7 miles south of Ceannaichean on the A890. The parking layby fits around 10 cars, parking is free and there are no height restrictions. The total distance for today's walk is a little under 12 kilometres with around 1,000 metres of ascent, and it is expected to take around 4.5 hours to walk. Once again, the layby is around 4 hours drive from either Glasgow or Edinburgh. The closest public toilet is in Ceannaichean, which is about 8 minutes drive away. Links to the route on OS Maps, the Scottish Mountain Weather website and the parking location on Google Maps are all included in the description. Starting from the parking layby, you're going to leave the layby and follow a clear path that heads southeasterly. And you follow that path and it'll soon come to a bridge, and you can see that from the car park. Cross that bridge, again follow the path, it gets a little bit boggy here. Follow it as it goes and you're heading for an underpath that goes underneath the railway track here. After you cross under the railway track, you go straight ahead. There is a very slight cairn that you can see here, and the path is not very clear, but you'll see in the video in the time lapse that you can make out the track. And you continue in the direction, it's more south than east, but slightly to the east as well. And you follow that path. The further on you go, the more defined the path becomes, and then it becomes really quite easy to follow. Some of this terrain is very boggy, very peaty, and you just make your way through that. And then you keep following the path, and it'll go up the side of this little stream for a brief period, and then it goes a little bit further away and then gets back close to it. And you keep following that path, and it is fairly steep and a very direct route up to Moruisg. As you get slightly higher up, it does get a little bit easier going, but it's still fairly steep. Now you'll make your way all the way up. The path becomes very faint around here, but you just keep heading towards the highest point. And you're going to see a large cairn around about here. And that cairn is not the actual summit. The summit cairn is a little bit further along here, and it's a very small cairn. And I'll show it in the video, but I did take most of my videos of the panoramas from the big cairn, because I mistakenly thought that was the actual summit. So when you come to that large cairn, you're going to head southwest. That will bring you along to the true summit, which is a very small cairn, and you're going to keep heading from the summit in the same direction, southwest. And then you'll follow the natural contour of the mountainside here. There's a steep drop shown here by the crags, and at that point you're going to head directly south. Across this bit there's a vague path, but as long as you keep to the top of these crags, and it's very obvious because there's a steep drop, so you just keep on the top of that and walk along. And then you're going to turn a little bit more southwest and keep following, but you keep to what is your left hand side of this steep drop, and the path is clear and easy to walk. It's a nice stroll. There's nothing difficult or challenging going down here. It gets a little bit steeper, but there's no scrambling. It's very easy to walk. You go across the Beelach here and then make your way up the other side. And the path, I think it zigzags a little bit more than is shown in the map here, but you just keep heading up. It's not difficult either. A little bit rocky at patches, but you make your way up onto this ridge here. From here you follow the path, and it does zigzag around a little bit over here. And when you get right close to the summit, it bends to the southwest, and then you have a sharp bend, 90-degree turn to the southeast. There's a cairn here, and again the larger cairn is not the actual summit. The summit is at the very southern point here, and there's a small cairn that you can see quite clearly. From here you retrace your steps back down onto this ridge, and then continuing in a northerly direction you're going to continue north. It does show there's a path going across here, but there was a very clear path just going cutting that corner, so I just went along the path that cut down the left hand side of this little ridge here. And you follow this path, just keep heading north, It's most of the way this path is quite clear, yeah, especially all the way down. It's only when it gets down to about this point here that it starts to become quite faint. And I think at this point many people had went across here on different paths, so there was no clear, well-defined path. And there's a number of little ridges that go down the side here. I actually managed to get back on the proper path at this point, but I did go a little bit too far to the north. When the path bends northeast, I kept going a little bit further north, and eventually I cut back across and joined back up into the path. When you come down to the bottom here, you'll cross this stream, and then you will join a more clearly defined path on the other side. I'm reluctant to tell you about that path because I complained bitterly about it in the video. It looks like a nice path on the map, but this is one of the worst paths I've walked along in a long time. You can follow it. It's fairly obvious to follow. It's been walked on a lot and it's eroded into the countryside, but it's very lumpy, very boggy, very difficult to walk along. But you'll continue to follow that path all the way back out until about here, maybe a little bit early. It gets a bit better, but it's not a great path. In hindsight, I would do this in the opposite direction. I'd rather get this horrible path out the way and then have a much nicer walk afterwards than having to do this at the end of the walk. But you follow the path, you're going to turn to the right here, you go through a gate, you turn to the right and go along in parallel to the railway track as you get closer to it, and then back underneath the railway track, and then just go back out the path over the bridge and back to the car park. Good morning. I'm at the start of the walk for Moruisg. I have to say the midgies are really bad. Oh, it's making it difficult to film. There's no breeze, so they're just, oh my god. It was meant to be raining just now, according to the weather forecast last night. So it should take about 2 hours to get up. A very boggy walk apparently until you get up to the higher ground. Do Moruisg, then you go round. There's a Corbett at the back, which used to be a Munro, but it got downgraded. I think that's the high point you can see in the centre of the frame. And then you come back down that ridge there. Total walking time should be about 4 hours, I guess. Maybe a little bit more. Oh, I'm going to go and put some sunblock on and just grab my bag, put my boots on and head off. This is the parking layby. I'm the only vehicle here and it is 10 to 8 in the morning, a Sunday morning. There's millions of midgies. They love my van. They're having breakfast. Oh, I've never had a worse time with midgies in my life. I mean, it's a beautiful morning. So leaving that layby as quickly as possible. Oh jeez. Head down this path to go over that bridge that takes us over the river. And then there's a little underpath that takes you underneath the railway track. Just asking you to keep to the main path. It's not exactly clear. There's a bit of an ATV track going up that way. We basically want to go straight up. So once you come through that gate, you want to keep to the right here on this, which looks like it might have been used for ATVs. Heading up for a gate, and I think it's, oh, this is brutal with these midgies. So I think that's the gate there. So we're heading up towards that. But anytime I stop, I get swarmed. This is bad. There is a little cairn there, and it looks like a path next to it. So I'm going to head towards that. And heading up towards that gate and the fence up there. Thankfully there's a breeze once I've got up to a little bit of altitude, so that's keeping the midges away. I must have 100 bites. So I'm at the fence, there's a gate here. Once we go through, the path goes up and then it'll bend over to the right and go up the side of a little stream. So at that point I'll fill up with water. It's a glorious morning. Yeah, it's quite boggy all the way up. It gets a little bit better once it flattens off down there. It's not terrible, but a bit squidgy. There you can see Ben A in the distance, the light cloud on the top. Oh, sorry, you can see Ceannaichean in the distance with the cloud on top, and then Ben A in the centre frame now. Time to change the battery in the GoPro. There's still 360 metres of ascent to go and 1 kilometre walking distance to the summit. Been going for about an hour and it's estimated to take about another 50 minutes to the top. It really is peaceful and calm today. Since changing the battery, I've climbed 100 metres in about 10 minutes. It's very steep. It's a bit like doing a lot of squats. It gets a little bit less steep now. Not much less, but a little bit less. We cross back over this stream and this looks like the last best place to fill up with water before we get up onto the ridge. Yeah, the weather's getting a little bit more overcast and a bit duller. Come to a little flat cairn here as it flattens, that's the actual hillside flattens off as well. I'm going to keep going straight on. I know there's a high point over there, but when I look at the map it looks like the summit is actually straight on from here. If it's not, We'll get to the sort of broad ridge and then turn to the right if I need to. So I'm looking directly into the wind. There's obviously some grey cloud coming. Guessing my bearings. So that's the Strathara for Munros, just the cloud going over the tops. And the Torridon Munros over there. Well, I think technically speaking this is still one of the Torridon Munros. Seems a little bit far away from Torridon. I'll double check that. At the summit of Moruisg and another new Munro for me. So the Corbett straight ahead, the path goes along the edge of this ridge, or whatever you call it, and then bends round to the left and goes over there. You can see the path along the top there. It then bends back round to the right, goes up the side of that sort of grey scree, and just you basically follow the ridge line all the way to the top. As I say, the true summit is the cairn at the back, so further south, and then from there come back down and go down that ridge there. Been descending gradually since the top over there. The wind's picked up a little bit, but it's not that bad. It might get funneled through this beelach, so we'll see how that goes. Coming to the steeper section of descent, you can see the path going up the other side, and a reasonably gentle climb up to the top. Then come back down to that point there in the centre of the frame and go down that ridge on the opposite side. Back out. You can actually see the car parked from here. It's got a little bit grey. There are pockets of sunshine. Look at all the deer. It is now 10:23, so about 2.5 hours walking. Coming down there was a straightforward walk down the hillside, nothing difficult at all. The wind's picked up a little bit on the Beelach as expected. Now you can see the path straight forward up and up onto the top. It's all getting a bit grey. Glad I made it over Moruisg before the cloud came in. There's a little bit of cloud blowing over the top here. The final little pull up to the summit of Sgùrr and Ceannaichean. A little bit of a zigzag up the edge here, not far to go. There was some cloud coming in and oh, there's more. It comes in little waves, so with a bit of luck we'll get a clear view when I'm on the top. Almost there. This first cairn, which is actually the larger of the two cairns, is not the summit. True summit is just a few meters away to the south. Just approaching the summit of Sgùrr and Ceannaichean. This one, like I say, used to be a Munro, but then with more modern measurement technology they re-measured it, and it turns out it's only 903 meters, if my memory is right, which makes it 2 meters short of a Munro. So it's a Corbett. That cloud's blowing over. I'm going to have something to eat here. Just maybe go over the edge here a little bit. Try not to go over too much, just to get out of the wind. Yeah, I think somewhere safe to have a wee seat, have something to eat. So I found a nice little spot out of the wind. I put my jacket on just in case some of the gusts get a bit cool. Time's gone exactly 11 AM. It's a lovely little spot for lunch. So I've had something to eat, waited for about 15 minutes, a little bit more. It hasn't really cleared up much, unfortunately. So from the summit you retrace your steps, head north and go down that little bit of craggy zigzag, and then just keep going north. We'll come to the point we joined this path on the right hand side, but we'll keep going straight ahead, and it should be a relatively straightforward walk all the way back down to the car park. Roughly 5 kilometers to go. Much looks like this is where it diverges from the other path. We're going to head down here to the left. I can see the van from here. So it's pretty much straight ahead all the way out. So I cut down round the side there. There's a very faint path coming from the top there as well, so either way we'll get you onto this ridge, and then just a walk down here. It does eventually bend to the right and join. There's a trail of some sort down in that gully, so it joins onto that eventually. We'll just keep walking down here. So far the descent path has been quite clear. It's definitely nowhere near as boggy as the path on the way up, and it's not too steep. Don't know what it gets like further down. It is a marked trail on the OS maps, so it might be decent. I've just come to the point where the path bends to the right, so it takes a little bend here and you're kind of facing towards that big crack in the mountain over there. The path starts to bend to the left again to go round and descend this section, and it goes back round to the right, and it crosses over to the path on the opposite side there and then goes out. So all signs of a path have faded away. You can see signs of footwear. I think I've come on just a little bit too far north, so I should be over there a little bit. So I'm just going to go round. As long as I go straight ahead, I will join up with the main track that's in the gully there. By just curving round a little bit there, I'm now back on the track properly. It goes down this little ridge and joins up with the path on the other side, and follow that out. Now that I've crossed the river, you can see the path there straight ahead, and we're heading in a northwest direction now, back to the road. There are signs of other bits where people have come down, so that's why the path is so faint, just people working their way down at different points. It's not difficult, could be a wee bit slippy, so just be careful where you put your feet and head on out. As you can probably tell from the time lapse, this path here is horrible. It's very uneven, rocky, muddy, sandy, swampy. It's all over the place. Looks like people got fed up with the really bad path and have started to make their own new path. This is actually slightly better. Nope, not enjoying this bit at all. This path has improved a little. There are still really swampy, sandy, boggy spots, but overall it's better now. The van's just over there. Hopefully there's enough of a breeze to keep the midges away when I get back, and if there is, I'll set up the shower and get a shower before I head back home. The sun's come back out. Oh, look at that. After coming through that gate, you want to turn this way. There is a faint path going down here, heading towards that hill over there. We want to go parallel to the main road, so follow the path this way. Looks like it's going to be quite boggy. So I'm heading back to the little tunnel under the railway track that I went under this morning, back over the bridge over the river and then up to the van. There are people sitting outside their camper vans, so maybe that's a good sign. I hope so, because those midges this morning were some of the worst ever. And if you've made it to this point, thank you for watching. There's a nice breeze. Should keep the midges away. So both tops cleared up again. It is overcast, but it's not bad. And the time back at the van is 1:15. So that's actually about 5 hours walking time roughly. There's a few breaks. It's quite nice here just now. This morning there was all these midges, and you'll see it in the video, but it was absolute hell. But there's enough of a breeze at the moment to keep them away. It's nice now. And I'll see you later. Bye for now.